legal and advocacy campaigns throughout the San Francisco Bay Area. She has earned 2 Bachelor's of Arts degrees from the University of Nevada and a Master's degree in English Medieval History from Cambridge University in England. She lives in San Francisco with her husband and her cat.
Is that the cat? There's the cat.
England. That's amazing.
Welcome, Buffy. Thank you. Here's the Thanks, Jim.
Can I move this? I'm a little closer to everybody. Thank you.
And you don't have to go behind it if you don't want to.
Oh, it's just a little bit easier for me so I don't drop my papers everywhere. So thank you so much for the opportunity to come and speak. I really appreciate it. And thank you for breakfast. Everybody's so kind. And I love hearing all the different animal stories. As I mentioned to the table I was sitting with, that I've always learned that the safest topics, doesn't matter where you travel throughout the United States or the world, you can always talk about animals and you can always talk about the weather. Because everybody always has some story, and it's always the same topic. So my name is Buffy Martin Tarbox, and this is my cat, Vivian. A lot of people think that the cat's name is Buffy and I'm Vivian, but including our vet, she always gets us mixed up. So Buffy is my real name. I was actually named after the folk singer Buffy St. Marie. So, and Vivian is clearly my cat's real name as well. So, let's see here. So a little bit about the Peninsula Humane Society and SPCA. I always like to start by asking, has anyone been to either one of our shelters? Okay. Has anyone ever adopted from us? Okay. So there's plenty of opportunity, because I think that hopefully after you learn a little bit more about us, that you might want to come visit. And I will offer, if you as an organization ever want to do a private tour of our facility, please give me a call. I know several of you have my contact information, and I can leave my business cards as well, because I'd love to have you into our shelter and just see a little bit behind the scenes of a little bit more of what we actually do. So we've actually been around a long time. We were formed in 1952 by a group of concerned citizens from the city of San Mateo who were very concerned about the amount of homeless animals that were in San Mateo County. So they formed the Peninsula Humane Society. And we are the organization that provides care to all of the animals in our community. And when I say all, I do mean all. Everything from raccoons to cats, dogs, to lizards, to all different types of animals. You will learn a little bit more about what makes us unique from other shelters. Now, one thing that a lot of people don't know about humane societies and SPCAs throughout the nation is there is no umbrella organization. There's no national organization. Every single shelter throughout the United States is completely separate and independently run and independently funded. So the Peninsula Humane Society is an independently funded organization. We are not affiliated with Silicon Valley Humane Society, Marin Humane Society, San Francisco SPCA. We're all completely separate and rely solely on our local community to help provide the funds so we can provide the services for the animals in our community. So we actually have 3 different locations. I'm assuming most of you are familiar with our original location at Coyote Point. And this building, I believe this building was built in the 1950s, and it's currently undergoing a massive renovation on behalf of the cities and counties of San Mateo, which is wonderful because our existing building is so old, and having the new state-of-the-art building is really going to help provide a better environment for the animals and a better environment for the community who go into that shelter. So what's different about the Coyote Point shelter from our other locations is this is what we call our intake shelter. So if anyone finds a stray animal, they bring that animal to that shelter. If our officers, our animal control officers, find an animal, they bring that animal to that shelter. If for whatever reasons people need to surrender an animal, either they can no longer care for that animal, or for whatever reasons, they come to our Coyote Point shelter and they surrender that animal. So all of the domesticated animals that go through our shelter system all start out at Coyote Point, Then they get ready for adoption. We review them, see if they have any medical or behavior needs that need some tending, and then they move over to our Tom and Annette Lantos Center for Compassion, which is located on Rawlings Road, and that's our adoption center. So we built this in 2011. We built it 100% through private funding. If you've never been there, it's a really fantastic place. It's just a fun place to come and visit. It's actually 3 stories. So we have dogs on the first floor. Second floor, we have what we call our small animals and reptiles. That's everything from adoptable mice, rats, rabbits, birds. We have all types of different reptiles. And then upstairs on our 3rd level, we have our cats. And then on our 2nd level at the Tom and Annette Lantos Center for Compassion, the only other thing we have there that's not related to adoptions is our Wildlife Care Center, where we treat injured and abandoned and rehabilitate wild animals. And then our 3rd location, which hardly anybody ever knows about, is our Pick of the Litter thrift store. Has anybody ever been to our thrift store?
Years ago, where does it now?
It's actually on Chula Vista Avenue in old downtown Burlingame, just off Broadway. So what it is it's a thrift store. We're open 7 days a week, so you can donate items, you can come and you can shop for items. And 100% of the proceeds go back to the shelter animals. So it's a good way to clean out your garage, clean out your kitchen, and also if you're looking for something unique, we have a wonderful book selection. If anybody's a bibliophile and a reader. And again, you know that you're doing something great for the animals in our community. So our shelter, we're what we call an open door shelter. And this means that we take every single type of animal. That's everything from a pit bull to a chihuahua to a little tiny newborn kitten to a wild turkey to a raccoon. Whatever type of animal we accept into our shelter. And we accept them regardless of their health condition, regardless of their age, or regardless of their temperament. So if we have an old senior Labrador Retriever and somebody finds that animal as a stray, doesn't matter how old that animal is, we will accept that animal. Other shelters throughout our nation have a lot of parameters on the types of animals that they will accept. They maybe won't accept a senior animal. They maybe won't accept pit bulls. Maybe they won't accept rabbits. But as an open door shelter, we accept every possible type of animal. And if that animal is what we call a domesticated animal, meaning it's a pet, we then offer that animal available for adoption if they pass all of their necessary health and temperament requirements. So if we get a ball python snake, most shelters throughout the nation won't accept pet snakes, but we do. And there's a whole lot of people who like pet snakes, as to each their own. But we accept all of those types of animals. So it's really a fun place to work because every single day you never know what type of animal is going to come through our door and then made available for adoption. Even though we're an open door shelter, no animal is ever euthanized at our shelter for space or for time. So we have some animals that have been waiting to be adopted for years. And we will continue to provide care for that animal until that animal is actually adopted. We will never euthanize that animal as long as they are healthy and they don't need to be humanely euthanized for any sort of health problem. So as we set our animals, we have cats, dogs, rabbits, guinea pigs, mice, hamsters. Doesn't matter, whatever type of animal you're interested in having, more than likely we have it available for adoption, or we at some point could potentially have it available for adoption. We once had a pet tarantula that I didn't even know there were such things, and there was a huge list of people waiting to adopt a pet tarantula. And she was adopted fairly quickly, and now she goes out to schools to meet students, and so she can really help people understand that tarantulas can be good pets and that they're not scary. So her name is Rosie, and she's apparently very popular in schools. So we also adopt out farm animals if they come to our shelter. Last year we ended up having 3 potbelly pigs. Because what'll happen is people will buy these little tiny baby pigs and they think they're going to stay that size, and they're not doing the research realizing that they're going to continue to grow. And if you're living in an apartment in San Francisco or you don't have the space, this is probably not going to be the best type of pet for you. So they come to us and they surrender their pet pigs to us, and then we find those pet pigs homes. We just had a bunch of peacocks of all things that came in through our shelter, pet peacocks. I personally didn't think anybody was going to be interested in those pet peacocks, and our staff were really annoyed because if you've ever encountered a peacock, they have a very unusual type of sound, and it's not often the most pleasant, and especially if they're right outside your office door, and you can hear them down in our barnyard. And so I put out a press release thinking nobody's going to cover this, nobody's going to be interested in adopting these 4 loud peacocks we have. Our peacocks like broke the internet. We had people calling. When I mean people, we mean like more than 100 people calling and emailing wanting to adopt the peacocks, because people don't realize that you don't have to necessarily go out and buy an animal. When you have an open door shelter like the Peninsula Humane Society, you can come and you can adopt. And our animals tend to be healthier because we know the temperament of the animals. We do health tests and checks on them. Plus, it tends to be a lot more cost effective to adopt instead of purchasing. So those peacocks, a woman saw them and she was at our door before we opened. She drove all the way from Stockton to adopt those 4 peacocks. And now we have a whole list of people who want to adopt peacocks if we should ever have any more that come in. So in 2018, we actually adopted out 3,395 animals. So that's actually quite a lot of animals for a shelter that only serves San Mateo County. So one of the other things that we provide to our community is we are, for all of San Mateo County, the Animal Rescue and Control Services. So if you see an injured animal on the side of the road, that's anything from a bobcat to a dog, you call us. Our officers can come and pick that animal up. If you find a stray animal, you can bring that animal to us, or our officers can come and pick that up. If you have a troublesome raccoon, our officers can come and can assist in that sort of situation. So we also enforce the laws that protect animals and people. So our officers work very closely with the district attorney's office to prosecute anyone who abuses or neglects an animal. And thankfully, our local DA's office is very aggressive when it comes to protecting the rights of animals, and the Peninsula Humane Society is as well. So one of the other things that we offer for our community is a variety of different pet care services. We offer on-demand microchipping at a very low cost. It's only $30. Microchip is a little tiny thing. It's like the size of a grain of rice that actually gets implanted in the animal's skin, beneath the animal's skin, and then you register that microchip online. So if your animal ever gets lost and it comes into a shelter or even a vet's office, they can scan for a microchip and they can immediately contact you to tell you, hey Mike, your dog got out again, so why don't you come pick up your dog? You're like, oh, thank goodness. Instead of when an animal comes in and it has no identification, we don't know who that animal belongs to, if it belongs to anybody. So people can come in anytime we're open and we'll insert a microchip. Same thing with licensing. Most cities within San Mateo County require, I believe all require a dog license, and even some require a cat license. So you can come into our shelter, you can renew your license there. We also offer low-cost vaccine clinics the first Wednesday of every single month. If anyone's ever taken their animal to a private veterinarian, you know how expensive it is to do even the simple things like providing the necessary vaccines. You can bring your animal to our vaccine clinic and we're only charging $15 each instead of $100. When I vaccinated my cat, because my cat doesn't travel well, it cost me $100 at our local vet clinic, when I think maybe I should have just put up with her howling and screaming, you know, from the drive from San Francisco and paid $15 for the rabies clinic. So we do this to provide a service for everybody from every different income level in San Mateo County so they can provide the necessary vaccines and help keep their animals healthy. And we also have a low-cost spay and neuter clinic. So people can drop their animals off, and it's about a quarter of the price that you would pay at a private veterinarian for spay and neutering. So you can spay or neuter your animal at our clinic, and this all performed by licensed veterinarians because we have full-time licensed veterinarian staff. And then we also have our mobile spay and neuter clinic. Has anyone ever seen that throughout our community? It's the most amazing thing. It's actually a van. It's a surgical van. And we actually do on that van our spay-neuter surgeries within the van. And so we have our vet staff and we do this every single week throughout the entire county, throughout the entire year, and we go to different areas throughout our county. And we can only spay or neuter cats or dogs on the van, and it's completely free of charge. And so when we arrive and we have set times when we do it, there's usually a line with people waiting to spay or neuter their animals. We bring them onto the van, we perform the necessary alteration surgery, then they come back and they pick up their animal completely free of charge. And this is one of the best ways to help reduce unwanted pets in the homeless pet population. It's one of our very popular things that we offer to the community. And we don't ask any information other than, information about your pet. And of course, we need your type of information. We don't ask any citizenship questions, and it's completely free of charge. And you don't have to be a member of that community. For example, the ones that we do in San Mateo or Redwood City, you don't have to live in those areas. If you live in San Francisco, if you live in Burlingame, you can't make it to those ones, you can just bring your animal to our mobile spay-neuter clinic for that surgery. And as I mentioned, we also have a wildlife care center. We are one of the only humane societies in the nation that provides services for wild animals. And so we do it for all of the animals, any wild animals within San Mateo County, and that's any type of wild animal. That's everything from a little tiny hummingbird that maybe fell out of its nest and couldn't be reunited with its mother, to a raccoon. The only thing we don't provide services for are mountain lions. That's all handled at the state level. We just don't have the training or the facilities to do that. So our goal with our wild animals is to keep them as wild as possible. So we don't name them. And our staff who work in the Wildlife Center are exclusively wildlife. They do not work with the domesticated animals. So when the animals come in, they do their intake investigation. If it's a hawk that has a broken wing, or an owl that maybe arrived emaciated, or whatever it is, we do everything we can to fix up that animal, rehabilitate it, and then return it to the wild. And we end up rehabilitating and returning to the wild anywhere between 1,200 and 1,400 wild animals every single year. So that's just one of the benefits that we provide for our community. We also have what we call nuisance animal hotline. So if those pesky raccoons are going through your compost, you can give us a call, and our wildlife staff and volunteers can help teach you ways to maybe make your home or your backyard a little less attractive to animals. And they're all humane solutions, because we don't believe in using any type of poisons or any type of inhumane trapping. But this is just something we provide for the community, to maybe help you coexist a little better with your wild animals. So has anyone ever heard of our TAILS program? We just celebrated our 10-year anniversary of our TAILS program, and TAILS stands for Transitioning Animals into Loving Situations. And this is a partnership that we've had with the San Mateo County Sheriff's Office for 10 years now. And what we do is we take animals in our shelter that need a little additional behavior training. Maybe they're frightened, or maybe they just need to learn some better manners before they're able to be adopted. And we pair them up with low-risk inmates, and the animals, the dogs, and it's dogs only, actually live with the inmates in the jail at the correctional center in Redwood City. The inmates learn how to train dogs, because our behaviorists meet with the inmates on a weekly basis, so they teach them all different types of tips on working with the dogs. And then when the dogs graduate in 10 weeks, they actually come back to our shelter and they're ready for adoption. And it's a great way for the inmates to make their time more meaningful, and a great way for the dogs to learn the things that they needed to learn to help them more adoptable. We also have a very robust humane education program. So we go from schools of all different types of, or all different grade levels throughout the entire county. We do classroom presentations, shelter tours, and then also for adults, we have what we call our pep talks. And I never can remember what pep stands for, and I don't think anybody else in our organization does either. But we do this for adults, and we do it a couple times, I think we do maybe now 5 or 6 times a year. We just had one a couple weeks ago on coexisting with wild coyotes to help people understand the mannerisms and the behaviors of coyotes and what to do if you see a coyote and things of that nature. And we also have animal camps during the summer, and then we have pet camps during the winter school break. So if you have children, grandchildren that you think might benefit from going to an animal camp, so they can learn all different types of things about animals, you can go to our website to learn more about that. And then emergency and disaster. We know that this is a very serious and pressing concern, especially when we're, seeing our neighbors to the north continue to endure, all the different natural disasters that are happening. We know that we live in an earthquake-prone area. And so the Peninsula Humane Society, we have an extremely comprehensive plan that will work with any kind of an emergency disaster. Remember those really bad San Bruno, the pipeline fires a couple years ago? We were the first on the scene to help the animals in that type of situation. So we work with local government agencies, but I do want to make sure to express that we are not first responders. But what we do is we work with these local agencies, and we can provide services for people and their animals. We can provide shelters, so if people for whatever reason have to evacuate and they can't find pet-friendly accommodations, we can provide shelter for their animals, and then when they get their housing situation sorted, they can come and they can pick them up again. We also have these mobile units that are like trailers, well they are trailers, that are completely stacked with food, water, medicine, bandages, anything that an injured animal might possibly need, or an animal who lost its home and maybe doesn't have food. And we have those, and we place them throughout different parts of the county, and we can move them into different disaster areas should we need them. And I did put on your seats a little checkoff list for those of you who have pets. We always encourage people, be prepared, not just for yourself. I'm hoping we all have our emergency kits, but also think about your animals and the things that your animals might need should you have to be evacuated, or should you lose power, as we know many of you in this room experienced that just recently. So other services that we provide for the community, we have a low-cost euthanasia service. So when it's time for your animal to cross the Rainbow Bridge, we do provide low-cost euthanasia services at our shelters. We have a pet loss support group for people who are looking for more support in dealing with the loss of their beloved pet companion. We meet monthly. We have what's called a Safe Pets program, where we work with a local domestic violence nonprofit organization. Many times people may not leave a situation because they can't leave their pets behind, and they can't find housing for themselves and for their pets. So we will shelter their pets for them free of charge while they get their housing situation taken care of. Then they can come back and bring their pet back into a safe environment. We have a continuing care program, which means that's something, should your pet outlive you, what's going to happen to your pet? Do you have friends? Do you have family that can take your pet? A lot of people don't. So you can enroll your pet, and it's any type of a donation at any level. It can be $50 a year, it can be $5 a year, it can be $5,000 a year, and you enroll your animal in our continuing care program, and should your animal outlive you, that animal then comes into our shelter, and we will find a new home for it. We have the Speakers Bureau, which is basically me, and then we have group tours, and which I outlined. So if you're interested in volunteering, we have about 1,200 volunteers that come into our shelter, both of our shelters. We could not do any of this without our amazing volunteers. So if you're looking for an animal fix, you can come to our shelter. We only request people give us 2 to 4 hours a week. And anything that you're interested in doing, if you want to walk the dogs, if you want to help out in fundraising, whatever it is that you want to do, we can find a spot for you. You can go to our website and learn more about our different volunteer opportunities. And if you have little ones, they can also volunteer as long as they're 13 years or older at our shelter. So it's a great way for kids to learn compassion for animals. If you want to come and learn a little bit more about that, just go to our website. So that's it. Any questions? Thank you so much. Yep.
Buffy, why isn't there any national organization? It would seem that if you had a larger group You could get discounts on supplies, purchasing, advertising.
I don't know. That's a great question that I don't know the answer to. I'm assuming because probably what happened at the beginnings of these shelters is that they were set up in independent communities and they wanted to maintain their independence. Also, there could be just a huge liability, for having an umbrella organization. And each shelter is run a little bit differently. We like the way our shelter as an open door shelter is run. If we were under a national organization and they suddenly decided that they didn't want to have lizard adoptions anymore, then that would be something that we might have to give up. So, but I actually don't know the history of why there is no National Humane Society or SPCA. Other questions? Mike?
So my dad has a lot of fruit trees in his backyard, and he doesn't like animals coming and getting his fruit. So he has a little trap, and he catches possums and squirrels and things all the time. And he used to, when he has time, he takes them and lets them go somewhere. But sometimes he doesn't, and so you don't want to know what he does with them when he doesn't. But can he bring them to the shelter?
It's a little more complicated, but there's two things here, and I do realize this is being recorded, so we might want to have a conversation
great.
off video about
Great.
that.
Okay,
So,
good.
yeah.
Mike, if you'd been a sniper, you wouldn't have that problem.
Other questions?
You do a tremendous amount of work and animals and adoptions and so forth. How many staff do you have? Including volunteers and staff?
We have 120 staff, give or take one or two people. Almost all are full-time, and that's spread out between our two shelters.
It seems as it take a lot, particularly if you're doing services for free.
Yeah.
For the community, and it's a lot.
Yeah, and we're open 7 days a week. We only close for major holidays. So our adoption centers, our intake shelters are open 7 days a week. And, so that's just something we think is really important to provide services to our community and for the animals here because, a lost animal is just not going to stay lost between the hours of 9 to 5. And take off, and take off weekends. It's like, so yeah, we do have a lot of dedicated staff, and it's extremely rewarding work, though.
Thank you.
Yeah, I saw one thing as far as abuse of animals and stuff like that, and I think it was San Francisco that one of our people were training their dogs and, how they correct them. And they were reported as abusive animals, and actually the police showed up, to the individual's house, and nothing happened because he was just correcting his dog, with a choke collar, and the dog wasn't doing the proper obedience and stuff. And I noticed you had there as far as they report to you as far as people abusing animals and stuff like that, and you report to the police, or
It really depends on the situation. I would say that a good majority of people in San Mateo County don't know that they can call us. We actually have 2 full-time humane investigators, and they have what I think are probably just extremely challenging jobs. Their entire job is to investigate animal abuse and cruelty and neglect cases. But a lot of people don't know they can call us, so they'll call the police. And it just really depends on the situation. If the police get there first, or really what happens. There's really no set jurisdiction as to who handles those particular calls. It just depends on who calls whom and who gets there first. So, but in a case, we will always end up having to take that animal if that animal really is in a neglect or abuse situation. So we always are assisting the police in that kind of situation, because we will have to remove that animal from the abusive situation. So, and we do get calls all the time of people complaining about their neighbor's dog barking. And so sometimes it's a retribution call. So we show up, we'll talk to the neighbor and say, here's some ways to maybe help coexist more peacefully with your neighbors, but we always want to make sure that that animal's not really in an abusive situation either.
Again, this is the first time I've noticed that a shelter doesn't euthanize animals. Because normally you,
Well, we do, and I don't want to mislead anybody, we do euthanize animals, those that have health conditions
well,
that
yeah,
cannot be
but
treated.
not because no one's picked them up after 6 months, then you just.
Absolutely not,
Well,
yeah.
that's what I'm saying, I mean, that's kind of unique, because you hear a lot of times that, if the animals aren't picked up in a certain amount of time, they
Yeah.
just euthanize them, not because of illnesses or sickness, that's a different issue, for the well-being of the animal.
Yeah, well, we're very lucky in that we have a generous community. We could not do any of this without the generous support of donors and our volunteers as well. So, I mean, when we first started, many, many years ago, it wasn't like that. And there are a lot of shelters within California that don't have the resources that other shelters like us have. So we will go and we will help them, and we can relieve their animal population. We will transfer some of their animals to our shelter. And other shelters do that
Yeah,
as
that's-
well.
that's
Because we're all
amazing.
here to help the animals.
Now, Mike just showed me a picture of a shepherd. Now, do you look for their tags when you?
Oh,
when someone
absolutely,
turns-
yeah.
Now, then you go to other organizations, because I do know that some of our people look for shepherds and they do background checks, and whoops, this dog came from Germany, it's trained, we want to pick it up. A lot of people will buy dogs, for different sports and stuff like that. And then the people, whoops, I can't, handle the dog anymore, and they'll just turn it in rather than give it back to the breeder or something like that.
Right.
Do you ever reach out to, because I know they have like shepherd people and Doberman people and stuff?
Yeah, sometimes we do, if we get one of those purebred type of animals in, but we also want the opportunity for us to be able to adopt that animal out as well.
Sure, okay.
And a lot of times the animals come to us and we don't know anything about their history.
Yes.
We don't even know their age, we don't know their name, we don't know anything about them. If they're picked up as a stray and they have no microchip or no collar
Okay, yes,
or any
okay, have nothing.
identification.
Right.
But then also the animals that do come in as strays, or that maybe people find as a stray and they bring to us, and if we're able to scan it or it wears any sort of an identification, we can call their owner, and we make happy reunifications every single day. And if people lose their animals, they have to come to our shelter, they can do a walkthrough to see if their animal's there. And every single day, people are reunified with their animals, which is great. That's why microchipping is so important, because it's a permanent form of identification.
Yeah, so
Because
you
a collar
do-
can fall off.
Yeah, so you do chip the animals.
Oh yes, not every single one of our, all of our cats, dogs, and rabbits are microchipped.
Wow.
And all of our cats, dogs, and rabbits are spay or neutered before they go up for adoption. So I've heard of some people microchipping some of their lizards or even some tortoises. We had a gigantic tortoise that came in one time that actually had a microchip. We scanned it. We didn't microchip it. We're like, let's just see if we can scan, and we were able to call their owner, who didn't know that their gigantic tortoise had dug out from underneath and decided to go walking through the neighborhood. So it got picked up as a stray. So I mean, microchipping has solved so many problems
Oh, yeah.
with lost animals.
Yeah.
There is another question? Uh-huh.
Actually, with the microchip, who would you contact if you had to sell off the animal to someone else?
I'm not sure I understand.
If you have an animal that's microchipped and you give it to someone else, you would want to register their name.
Yeah, so what happens with stray animals that come into our shelter that have been microchipped, we will call whoever it's registered to. Sometimes that information's outdated. Sometimes people didn't update it. So it may link back to another shelter. So we'll call that other shelter and say, hey, we found one of your animals that you adopted out a couple years ago. Sometimes they'll want that animal back, or other times they'll just say, you guys can adopt out that animal. So we re-register that animal to our shelter. And then we encourage people, when you're adopting, first thing you do when you take your animal home, go to that website for that particular microchip and add your information in there. But sometimes people don't do that. So the microchip, if it came from our shelter, will come back to us. But then we go through our records and we'll know, oh, so-and-so adopted that animal from us 4 years ago. So then we call that person, let them know, your animal is here. If people, rehome their animals on their own, we encourage them, go to that website and re-register your microchip. Because it's actually quite easy to do.
Sounds good.
Does pick up the litter accept all types of items, or do you have restrictions on what you will take?
We do have restrictions. We're a small store, so like we cannot accept furniture, and there's other things that we can't accept, and all that information is listed on our website. And we don't pick up; it has to be brought to us.
Before you finish, can you tell us about your Brew Fest?
Yes, if I can remember the date.
June
It's-
13th.
Is
coming
it?
up. Next year.
June 13th,
I
okay.
think so.
We have two big major fundraisers. The first one is our annual gala, which is happening this Saturday. That's already sold out tomorrow, this tomorrow. And then we have another major one that we do in June, and that's our Brew Fest, where we have like dozens and dozens of different breweries throughout the entire Bay Area that come, and you can sample as much as you want. And we have some wineries as well. We have some non-alcoholic beverages as well. And so I think we're charging, it depends on the level, but our entry tickets are $50, and that gets you into any of the breweries that you want. Get a little glass and you can just fill up as much as you want. And we generally do it at West Washington Park. And it's just a lot of fun. And different community organizations, like some of the ambulances or different like dog hotels and stuff like that, they have different booths there, so you can learn a little bit more about that. It is dog friendly, so if you have a dog, and as long as it's on leash, you can bring your dog to the event. And we don't limit the amount of tickets. I think earlier this year, I think we had like 750 people that came. So people just really seem to enjoy it. It's not as formal as our gala, so it's a little, and our gala tends to be a little bit more expensive as well, so it's a little bit more affordable for people. And it's just a lot of fun. And I cannot remember the date. My apologies. It is on our website.
It's not saying, it just says 2020.
Yeah. But it is held on a Saturday in June. Yeah. Any other questions?
I got one a little bit outside your area, if possible. I've been kind of interested in trying to find a program where I could, just monitor animals. Some of the like endangered species. We have the condors down there.
Right.
Do you guys have any lists of places like that you can volunteer?
I don't know. If you call our main shelter and ask to talk to someone in our wildlife department, they might be able to direct you to someone. We don't, the animals that we return to the wild, we don't tag. But other ones do. But yeah, I don't know.
You can even do it, like, again, it's probably outside your area, counts of certain animals to see if they're decreasing or growing.
Yeah, well, there's somebody out there that is collecting that sort of data. Yeah, but I just don't, unfortunately, know. Yeah. Anything else? So, thank you.